We seem to have funny starts lately.
Yeah, I don't think we can do it seriously anymore.
No. This is Voices in the Dark. I'm Dre.
I'm John.
And we're covering Seneca's letter to Lucilius, number 28.
Yes. In the process, we are learning how to human.
Yes, we
There
are.
we go.
Always, evermore.
This one is entitled officially On Travel as a Cure for Discontent. Although the reality of it is that Seneca thinks that travel is not a cure for discontent whatsoever.
It's on the topic of, rather than in favor of.
So it's kind of all about, are you running away from your problems? Are you trying to distract yourself by having a change of scene? Or are you actually doing something else? I mean, Seneca seems to have a perspective that you're running away. I have some other views on this. Certainly as someone who's been...
This is one of the letters where I'm like, go Seneca.
No. Okay, so we're going to disagree on this. So are you running away from your problems, or is there another way to interpret, like changing scene, changing country, going from place to place?
Right.
And it's definitely a dynamic that I've seen in some people, but without preempting it, I also think there's some other things going on here.
Okay, I'll be keen to hear what those are.
I'm glad, because otherwise we might as well stop now.
I'm done.
It's over. It's all over.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Hey, why don't you take the reins and big up all the ways people can help us out before we start?
You are hopefully listening to us on iTunes, and if you are listening to us on iTunes, please also subscribe on YouTube. You can see our pretty faces and all the exaggerated facial expressions that come with our funnies.
Yes.
If you're already watching on YouTube, hi.
Hello.
We're going to keep putting these out as well as our interviews. Maybe we'll put some of the back catalog up. Make sure you like and share and stuff. It helps us get visibility, which helps us quit the day job.
Yeah, fucking
which
quit
is
the day job.
the dream. You can also find us on all the social medias at V in the D. In Instagram, it's vinthed.pod, where we're probably going to do a lot more because it's quite frankly the coolest social media at the moment.
I didn't expect it, but it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, the others, Facebook is just a cesspit of despair, and Twitter is just kind of, I feel like a ghost town.
Yeah,
but maybe I'm wrong.
It is a bit. I don't hang out there.
And for those that want uber, super duper cool exclusive stuff, or even simply just to support us a bit, our Patreon, which is a platform that allows you to sort of kind of Kickstarter-y pledge a little bit of money, but on an ongoing basis, more like a Netflix subscription to people that are doing things you like. And in this case, our podcast is hopefully something you really like. So come on there, join. You can pledge as little as $1 a month, which we will use to replenish our vaping supplies.
Yeah, vaping supplies, crack, hookers, all those things. Possibly also quit the day job, but we got to get our priorities straight here. Yeah, I think you did that well. Well done. Better than me. It was over more quickly, and I felt more convinced by that.
Cool. Well, back to Seneca, I think.
Yeah, back to Seneca. So here we go. He begins going, do you suppose that you alone have had this experience, whatever it may be? Are you surprised, as if it were a novelty, that after such long travel and so many changes of scene, you have not been able to shake off the gloom and heaviness of your mind? You need a change of soul rather than a change of climate.
Yeah. So when you said whatever that may be, in the Italian version of the letter that I read, this second part of that sentence is the experience.
I realized that more as I said it. Like that wasn't part of the quote, the whatever it may be. That was me.
Yes. No, I know that. But in Italian, it flows more. Like it makes more sense as to why it's structured that way, that sentence.
I think what we're learning most out of these letters is that if you want to be Stoic, you need to know Italian.
I think so, clearly.
So wherever you go, there you are, as the saying goes. And I've certainly thought that when traveling around, as I have quite a lot in the past few years, and going, oh yeah, and I'm still feeling shit, on some days. I still feel bad. The same problems are here, and it's easy to become fixated on the idea of like, oh, if only I could go on holiday, if only I could afford to go and be in this place, which I've bigged up in my mind as like, I'll be really calm and peaceful there.
Right.
And sometimes it's even a place that you've been before, and you're thinking, if only I could get back there, because you've got such a strong association in your mind at this point of like being happy or productive or I don't know what, more open with that place. But it's not really the place. that's doing that. It's you and how you relate to it.
Yeah, and you can't run away from your problems. They're your problems. They follow you. And I think it's more than just about travel. I think this philosophy applies to people that hop from job to job, relationship to relationship, thinking, oh, this doesn't feel right. He or she's not the one. And they keep moving on and changing. Or, they don't feel like they're getting anywhere in a particular career, and they change career paths.
Chasing the perfection dragon.
Yeah, and ultimately they're running away from themselves, except you can't do that.
Sadly not. I mean, maybe if I have like my identity wiped, then I'll finally be free. Interestingly, though, on this, at time of recording, I've just got back from the Philip McKernan weekend, which we just recorded an episode where I was reflecting on that and trying not to cry. He thinks that place can matter a lot. As usual, I don't think he's ever really making totalizing statements, but he was saying, okay, if you're in a place that totally doesn't serve you, if you get up and you're miserable to be in whatever city it is, then that can have a big effect on you. It's draining you. And sometimes it's enough to know that you're not happy where you are and go somewhere else. In our interview with him, it came out as like anywhere but Vegas. It's like, it's key to know if you're living in Vegas and you fucking hate Vegas, but you're like, I don't know where else to go. Like, if I go there, it might not be any good. That seems nice, but I'm not sure. It's like, well, why don't you work on what you do know rather than what you don't know? And what you do know is you hate Vegas. Yeah.
So I guess there's two things here. The fact that moving helps, but that ultimately it might not. And both things coexist. So you should probably try to move, but then don't be surprised if your problems follow you. And if they do, it tells you a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, then you learn something. Yeah. That it wasn't about Vegas in the end. It's because you're a crack addict. That might be the underlying problem.
That might be it. That could be it.
At times, it's not the place, and you can use the place as an excuse. Like what's really at the root of things. The place might be at the root of things, but it might not be. So I think like the more careful path to take is not to think that you found the answer either way, but go, okay, I'm going to be curious about what happens if I go try this thing out. And if it doesn't work, okay.
Yeah. I feel like one has to be careful of something, but that's also useful. So when you do move situation, it can help a lot. I've had this happen to me. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't necessarily because I left somewhere that was bad or that I went somewhere wonderful. But it's because it kind of overcomes what I call fossilization. Mm-hmm. When you're stuck somewhere and you're stuck in a rut as well, the coming back to the same space, to the same people, to the same work every day can keep you there. And it starts to everything starts to fossilize and set in stone. By moving somewhere new in a new environment, you can make new friends. You can try new things, try to be a different person. The brain seems to associate the newness mm-hmm. of the environment with the possibility for new options.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe it's at the brain level, at the experiential level, there's that it can be easier to be yourself amongst a bunch of total strangers than it is with the people who've known you a long time and think of you in certain ways, because you've got in a habit. We've all got in habits of being a certain way around people, and we see that every time you go home for Christmas or whatever it is, and you fall into little patterns with your family, which are old patterns that aren't really serving you anymore. And it's like we've trained each other, the people that we're around. Oh, okay, I'm always in this role with regards to these people at work or whatever. But if you meet someone new, they're not assuming or expecting you're going to do anything in particular. Maybe they make a few judgments based on how you look or how you talk and so on. But I've really felt this when I've like moved to a different place or visited a different place. There's this opportunity when people say, oh, hi, where are you from? Or like, what do you do? Well, you get to decide right then what you tell them. And like me, you could have an existential crisis about how you
it's
describe
always an option.
It's always an option. But if you tell someone and you feel like, okay, I'm going to just be chilled out and say this now, you can say, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Or you might say like, yeah, I'm a poet. Okay, so maybe they ask some harder questions about how does that pay the bills? Because some people really are that dickish that that's what they'll ask straight away. But the point is, you're a poet. now, as far as they're concerned. You don't have to really explain anything else, and now you're this other thing. So you could go around serially lying, I suppose, if that gets you off. But if it's more about being able to say who you really are and who you think you are, that's an opportunity.
Gives you options.
So apparently Socrates made a remark that is kind of his version of wherever you go, there you are. He said, why do you wonder that globetrotting does not help you, seeing that you always take yourself with you? The reason which set you wandering is ever at your heels. So the question is, for me, I think the key question is, are you running away or are you going walkabout? Walkabout being, maybe you would know better to have to describe walkabout.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it only in rough terms. I wouldn't want to get wrong the actual full spiritual sort of meaning behind it. But in Aboriginal culture in Australia, there's this kind of moment, sort of a coming of age almost bit, where a young, I don't know if girls do it as well, actually. It might be a sexist thing. I know young Aboriginal boys were sent walkabout, so they would kind of go on a journey of self-discovery, from one place to another, throughout the desert. It's quite a big place, Australia. It's as big as the United States if you take away Alaska. So it's actually quite massive. It's almost a continent. And you just go sort of wandering around, discovering yourself, and within that, there would be sort of almost a coming of age situation, because you have to rely on yourself. And it's now become a term for people traveling the globe with more of a the mentality of discovering and sort of exploring, and sort of it's less about sort of running, like as you said, running away from something or going somewhere specific. It's all about the journey, baby. It's
all about the journey. I mean, I think it's a version of this is, I don't know if this is such a thing in the US actually, but in the UK it's now normal to talk about taking a gap year or a gap year.
Gap year.
Maybe I'll link to the video so you know why we're talking about gap years, which is often kind of associated with people with enough money to go and do it. And it can be a really cheapened version of that idea of self-discovery, of where people just go and feel very worthy because they went to an African village for a day and went, oh my God, the poverty, and then they went off and did something else.
Right. In the UK, it tends to be rich people going to poor countries and building a shelter or something like that.
And being very earnest. And okay, it's good to go and build a shelter for people who need a shelter, but it can also be like an ego stroke of, oh, I'm a good person, I've seen the world, and now I'm going to go and work for daddy's hedge fund.
It's funny because Kiwis and Aussies do it too. They call it the big OE, overseas experience.
Oh, okay.
But they don't tend to go to Africa to help poor people. They tend to go on a bus tour of Europe getting drunk along the way.
Yeah, and then they come here and work in bars.
But I mean, obviously not for everybody, but it is a transformational experience. If you've only ever lived in a small town in New Zealand or Australia, you see things that are older than 100 years. You see, massive cities and all sorts of crazy cultures coming together, as opposed to mostly Kiwi, mostly Australians, with, a few people from maybe China or somewhere like close by. Mm-hmm. It's very eye-opening for people that are paying attention.
So the why you're going kind of determines it, and maybe a gap year can accidentally turn into a walkabout. Maybe you learn something in the process. I first heard about Walkabout watching Babylon 5, actually the classic sci-fi series, that just in one episode, one of the characters kind of just goes, yeah, I'm not going to do my job right now, I just need some time out, I'm going walkabout. And they have this kind of, I think, a sort of hallucination type thing where he actually meets himself. Like, I think the notion is you walk around till you find yourself coming the other way. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I think I get who I am a bit more now. And you can proceed from that knowledge. But the other danger, as Neil Strauss, the author of The Game and the Truth, puts it, is, if I can get this right, if you're looking for yourself, all you're ever going to find is somebody who's looking for themselves.
Right.
You can end up in a circle that if you're constantly searching but really unwilling to see that you're already right here, it can just become... There's something I was going to mention later, actually, but maybe I'll mention it here and it'll be relevant again later. Retreat junkies.
Yeah.
People who go on spiritual retreats, who go on these deep experiences, but you have this feeling, you're like, all you do is serially go to these retreats. You never actually take anything you've learnt from that and take it back into your life. It's like you're always on holiday claiming to be doing deep, meaningful work, but it doesn't really mean anything until you actually apply it, instead of going, oh, I'm going to see Tony Robbins again.
Yeah. No, I see that a lot, and it's in part of the psychonaut community as well. People going for ayahuasca ceremonies or other things like that, and they just keep going back to it, looking for more answers, and they don't realize that the fact that they're still looking for answers is why they need to keep going, which is a self-fulfilling kind of, like, they're never going to get it. They're never actually going to find what they're looking for, because they're looking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can be... I know that some people have drunk ayahuasca like 100 times, and maybe that was what they needed. The point is, did you take something you learned from it and you went and you tried to integrate it into your life? Did you make that change and then you had some new questions? Or did you just go, oh, I've got a problem with anger, okay, and then not really do anything, and you're just like, oh, I don't know, let me go. It's like abdicating responsibility, because these things, a walkabout, a spirit quest, taking a psychedelic, can give you clues, but you have to decide what the meaning is and do something with it.
Yeah, and ultimately behave differently in the same old shit you used to do, or maybe something new. But, you know, like, if you're just constantly sort of going between the same old crap and then back out again and forwards and backwards,
then you're just
what's
running.
the point?
So I think there's also a danger here when people say it's time to settle down, a certain time of life. Time to settle down. The danger, I think, is that we often think about that as just being related to a place, like get a house, get 2.4 kids. But I think it's only really meaningful if it's a settling down into yourself, a settling into who you are. That, okay, if you're just running around all the time, looking for new experience, distracting yourself from who you are and what's actually important, there's a problem. But I'm not saying you have to stop moving around, but are you working out why you're doing it and what it's giving you?
I think that sentence is one of those platitudes that gets thrown around to keep people from doing stuff. It is a method of control, or also like keeping sort of the status quo amongst people that basically don't have the financials. Because if you're super rich, you don't have to settle down. There's not like, okay, you can't keep traveling the world and spending all your money on travel because you got to start a family, otherwise you'll be too old soon. Whereas someone that's got bazillions can do both. You know, it's a make a choice, you know, type of scenario that gets imposed on middle class and lower by themselves, by their parents, by society, both in a controlling way, I think, but also in a limited resources. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, if it's literally about the traveling around, yeah. But I think there is pressure on people, even if they are, well, not all. I guess, you know, Paris Hilton can keep doing whatever the fuck she wants, I guess. But some, there's going to be financial, familial pressure, even if you are rich. Like, why haven't you got married? Why haven't you done the things that we think you need to do? So I think this sort of settling in yourself thing is back on track with Seneca. He says that trouble, whatever trouble, once removed, all change of scene will become pleasant. Though you may be driven to the uttermost ends of the earth, in whatever corner of a savage land you may find yourself, that place, however forbidding, will be to you a hospitable abode. In that, if you're okay in yourself and you're not looking for the answers around you the whole time, like, the situation may not be ideal, but it's not like suddenly a question of your identity, if that makes sense.
No, I think you're right. It's
Sort of
interesting.
centredness.
Not sure if any place would be okay for me,
I think
even if I was completely found.
that comes up at the end of the letter. He sort of circles back to that. And so I don't just get lost in all of my notes. I'm not going to talk about it right now.
Okay.
Maybe I need to do this better and have like post-it notes so I can just pick up the right point at the right moment.
And when you've made the point...
Yeah, I just tear it up and hurl it away. Like, it's gone. It's gone. Burn it. Something that Philip McKernan talks about quite a lot is that have the sense of like, I'm looking for my passion. I'm looking for it. And you're like, okay, you're looking under that bush, looking over in that other country, looking like... He's like, well, it's inside you. And okay, doing unexpected things and challenging things might reveal some of it to you, but it's not out there. It's inside.
Yeah. And if you haven't found it after 8 trips to India, maybe you should try something different.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. In particular, with relation to the centeredness, the next quote I took is, "The person you are matters more than the place to which you go. For that reason, we should not make the mind a bondsman to any one place. Live in this belief. I am not born for any one corner of the universe. This whole world is my country." And I thought you'd be getting pretty jizzy over that.
I like that. Yeah. Like, I don't like the concept of countries. Sorry to any nationalistic people out there. I do feel like the world is my oyster / I am the world, rather than any specific place. There are some places I like more than others, but
yeah. But it's so weird when if you go to some other places, other countries, unless it all goes horribly wrong for you, you'll likely have moments of just, oh, this is a human connection. Oh, look, people are a bit different here, but they're also kind of the same. Have the same kind of fears and hopes. They might be expressed differently, but ultimately the human experience is a shared one.
Yeah.
And to think that where you are significantly impacts on those human truths, I think is a distraction or an abstraction.
And silly.
Or a wankstraction.
Wankstraction. Okay.
That sounds painful. So I think that's definitely in line with what we talk about a lot on the podcast, that we don't want to be tied down or put in a box and made to be a particular thing, which I think is what happens if you're like, you belong in this country, you are this thing. The location determines who you are. But I'd also... I think that you can discover parts of things that are in yourself whilst you go to other countries, because you, like we said, in terms of like you move place, you move job, you meet other people. In the process, maybe you discover, I'm actually more confident than I thought, or I really love to be able to help people in some way, because you're in an unexpected scenario where you're called on to do something that you wouldn't usually do, and you love it.
Okay.
Like backstreet blowjobs. I'm in a funny mood today.
Definitely. Very funny.
Ha ha ha. You know what I mean, though? Can you think of... I was trying to think of examples for myself, not backstreet blowjobs, but of like things that you discover about yourself when you're in a different place. Maybe it's untrue.
No, I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I guess I quite like eating outdoors in a very lazy way. Sort of taking my time having conversations as opposed to, it's lunchtime, gotta eat because I gotta get back to work. I do like the more Mediterranean kind of long lunch with people talking about maybe even business, not necessarily leisurely talk, but that I like that as a thing. As culturally, I'm quite pro that.
I think I've discovered I don't know, maybe I've discovered something about that people can like me more easily than I expect in other countries. Like I've discovered that there. Hopefully it's true everywhere. But maybe partly through playing the role of the bumbling foreigner a little bit, but it's, say, if there's a language barrier or if I can't speak the language that well, I'm able to express who I am in a way that people tend to resonate with and want to help me and not just like take advantage. Or if there's no language barrier, like when I lived in Canada for a little while, I felt because I didn't know anyone and I kind of wanted humans to talk to, I was much more open to just random conversations with people in a coffee shop, or I don't know, just even if you see people are hanging out on the street and you ask them some directions, you have a little chat. I discovered that I was more able to do that and be a bit spontaneous and open, more so than I would have felt back home.
Yeah. I
would often just avoid doing those things, especially in Britain, where it's sort of people treat it as very weird if you speak to them. It's like, well, what do you want? Why do you? But it's different again. Like say, even within Britain, if you're in the countryside, or in a small village or whatever, then people are all like, you pass each other on the road and you wave at each other. It's just like, oh, I see you. You exist as well. So you don't even have to go abroad. You could just change which kind of life that you're living in the given, in the different, you could go to the countryside is what I'm saying, or vice versa.
It is quite nice sometimes. Although at least in the past, I would have tended more towards like, it's quite nice that no one's saying hello to me. This is so stressful when people want to talk to me.
They want something.
So autistic people move to London.
Yeah, no one will talk to you. Everyone's a dick, like us. So what I'm thinking here is back to a thing we've been looking on, all variations of this. Why is more important than what you're doing? Why are you doing it? So the next quote I highlighted is, "As it is, however, you are not journeying. You are drifting and being driven, only exchanging one place for another, although that which you seek, to live well, is found everywhere." So if the reason for moving around, the reason for moving around is the important thing, that if you're just doing it because you're drifting and being buffeted around, it's not very conscious. You're just kind of, I'll see what happens, but in a kind of unconscious, unreflective way, compared to, I want to discover something.
I want to reframe that. The reason why you're traveling around is important to you in the context of actually getting what you desire out of it.
Okay.
Because the why itself is, to me, like, I hate the why. Like, find your why. What is the why? Sometimes it's really, really irrelevant. But if your what is, I want to be happy. Mm-hmm. And you're moving country because you think that'll be a good idea. But really the why is that you want to be happy, and you're not happy right now because you can't find love because you can't love yourself. Mm-hmm. The why was helpful in getting there and figuring out that what you need to do is love yourself. But the why itself was just the prompt to get there. The why is irrelevant. Like, I want to make sure that it's in context of finding something. People fetishize the actual why. Like, I want to help people, or like, I need to, like, but it is more of a tool, and it's only important to you. No one else cares.
You're more of a tool. No, that makes sense, and that actually fits with something else that I thought. I think you expressed that. You hit on it before I did. I thought of things like the idea of enlightenment and so on. That it's the notion is it is already inside you. It's your meaning. You just have to try and find what it is. But having varied and different experiences can help you recognize it. And it's not because those experiences directly showed you, it's that you discovered something along the way. There's like the notion, there's this sort of image of, if you're standing on one shore, enlightenment is on the far shore. You take all the kind of lessons and learnings that you've got, all Buddha's teachings or whoever's teachings, and that's your raft, and you start across the river to the other side, and then the raft starts to fall apart, and you're like, oh shit, how am I going to get there? And you're holding on to the pieces. I've got to believe in this bit. This is important. I need this. But I don't know how to tell the rest of the story. The point is, you have to just let go of the raft, because the raft is holding you back. Like you learnt some things that helps you get some of the way, and they are like what in a Terry Pratchett book about science. He wrote several books about real science with some scientists. It's what they call lies you tell to children. You tell them the simple truth, which helps them get used to something, which then allows them to level up more easily to the more complicated truth, which is probably also a lie. Can you think of like examples of that in a sciencey way?
I think it was when I was about 15 during physics class. The teacher goes, "So, we've taught you all about centrifugal force. There is no such thing." What? Fuck you. Apparently, centrifugal force is more of a simple way to explain the effects of what is actually centripetal.
Ah, okay.
Forces, but you needed more maths and more understanding to get to that point, so it was a shortcut.
Yeah.
At least that's what my fifth form physics teacher told me. Mm-hmm. I should probably go back and check. Maybe now this says actually centrifugal force is real, and I would be very upset if that was the case.
Like it's useful to help you do things like get to the level where you can learn more, also useful if you understand, say, something that helps you make predictions about how things happen. So unless you're going to contradict me, I heard this recently on a podcast, a sciencey typey thing, where saying, okay, so a lot of basic science things are treated as though it's sort of proven, as opposed to we can see that we can observe a consistency that allows us to make predictions is not the same as saying we know why it happens. And this includes gravity, that we don't really know why that is, like properly, but we can say that it's the tendency of things to fall towards the earth. That's gravity. Okay, so how do we know? Well, there's a tendency for things to fall towards the earth. So we can see it happens. We can predict from it. Do we really know and like properly know why?
No. That one in particular, they still don't know for sure. They're trying to theorize it based on the latest sort of like all the latest sort of theoretical physics is trying to solve the problem of gravity.
That blew my mind. Huh? That when I heard that, I was like, that blew my fucking mind. We don't know.
No, it's one of the fundamental forces, but we're not 100% sure. But also because it seems to be a property of the universe, but we're still not sure what the universe is. We're describing it in terms of 3 dimensions plus time, but we're not even sure if that's 100% real. Some people that believe in string theory thinks there's up to 11 dimensions, I think. There's all sorts of weird, complex things. But there are very accurate predictions you can make about the fact that gravity definitely exists.
So you can do something useful with it, but it's not the whole story. And so back to the Buddha raft, you can do useful things with the stories that you've been told and get part of the way. But at a certain point, you have to to move beyond those things to the real, now I'm enlightened. You have to let go of all of them. You have to let go
of the raft and sink with dignity.
Yeah. or because it's all a metaphor anyway, you realize that you're actually already on the enlightened shore because it was inside you all along. But it only became... This is how Buddhist teachers talk. I said in the podcast we just recorded, they tell you there's lots of different stories over and over again, like different ones. And it's the same thing, the same lesson, until finally someone says it in a way that you go, oh, I see. And the story wasn't important. It's the fact that it allowed you to go, now I get it. And that can happen in everyday life with a sort of an emotional understanding. Maybe you've never understood why some people act really aggressively or angrily. There's a person, you don't know how they are, and then you discover something about their past, or you see them in a different light, and you're like, oh, and that changes everything for how you perceive them.
There is a cartoon I think we should include in the notes. It's a little cartoon strip of a bunch of friends that have a treasure map. They're gonna go look for the treasure, and each kind of square of the strip is losing one of the friends somehow, to piranhas or something, or and the last one's like, go on without me, you will find it or something. And the person finally gets to the treasure and the last one, and opens up this treasure chest, whatever it is, and inside it's like, the treasure was friendship all along. But he's lost all his friends.
That's definitely your kind of cartoon, cackling at the horror of it all.
Just the guy going, what?
There's a similar cartoon where Indiana Jones finds some kind of crystal of absolute truth and insight, and it's like, you're really not that good. And he's like, fuck you, you don't know me. You don't want the truth. You don't want to see the truth. So this is where I'd thought before to say the dark side is the retreat junkie, where you can keep having all the experiences and all the lessons and all the things. You can make your predictions, but if you're not really going to let go and do something with it, and you're never getting the insight, it's like, I'm going to take mushrooms again, and the mushrooms are like, oh, for fuck's sake. How many times do I need to tell you?
It's like, well, I guess the equivalent would be to continuously go back to high school. To get it right this time.
Right. Because that's not the point of high school, is it? No.
It's like, no, you've done it. Now take those lessons and put them into action. And if they're not useful, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Just do something.
Anything. Just get out of Vegas. So Seneca argues all the same. to come back, this is the bit where I said this comes up later, that there are some places which are shit to be in. And he's like, the Forum is one of them, the Roman Forum.
I always imagine it as a lively place to be.
Well, I think he thinks it's kind of too much like the scene, the place where all the bullshit's going down and the backstabbing and tension and double dealing and all this kind of stuff. And he says that places like that can seriously impact your ability to live the good life. But I really like this bit that he now says. He goes, I disagree with those who strike out into the midst of the billows and, welcoming a stormy existence, wrestle daily in hardihood, that's not a word, hardihood of soul with life's problems. The wise man will endure all that, but will not choose it. So there's a big distinction between saying, I can go into these difficult places and do this hard work and it's not ideal, but I'm not actively going to choose it. I'm not going to think this is where I want to be. And this is something I've been reflecting on after the weekend, that I think maybe it's something in our culture, maybe just in particular people's upbringing, an expectation that it has to be hard to be worthwhile. You're just giggling. It has to be hard. Yeah. And that if it's not hard, it probably isn't really good.
There's also the inverse. People that say it's like, oh, it's supposed to be easy when it's good.
And
neither is true.
No, like say in a relationship, I don't think it has. I don't think you should go, this has to be hard or it doesn't count. But I think like the really healthy one is not that it's effortlessly easy, because I think it can feel like largely effortless. It can feel easy, but there better be some effort, because otherwise you're probably ignoring a lot of things.
And generally, I mean, unless everything always goes perfectly outside of the relationship,
it'll come into the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And when it does, if it's effortless, it means you don't care. If, your partner's mom dies and you're like, cool, no effort, like, like it's no skin off your back. You didn't have to comfort them. Like, they didn't need that from you. If they didn't need it from you and you didn't really feel like giving it to them, that's the signal or something.
It's probably not a very good relationship.
No. So there's going to be things that affect you. And unless you're a perfect person as well, you're going to struggle or, maybe be passive aggressive or something. And it will be hard. It'll be hardest, actually, the more important the relationship is, because you're going to take more personally mistakes that the other person makes, usually. That at least on average, that's what people do.
I think that the lesson, or the way it really landed for me in terms of a relationship thing, is don't seek out a relationship that is hard work.
No.
Like, why? And some people, I've known people who genuinely have fetishized this. They're like, this is what a real relationship is.
Oh,
it should be.
It should be hard.
Yeah, it should be hard. It's like, they don't say should. They're like, it's always hard. It's always a case of significant compromise. It's always a case of like, you're going to really annoy each other. That's the reality of an actual relationship. The rest is Disney. Like, no, I think you're just creating a sense of this is, you're just saying that really good, healthy relationships aren't real.
Yeah, that's also messed up.
Because if you've got a shitty one, or one that seems to be hard and full of sniping and endless compromise and difficulties,
and you're sticking with it, then clearly it must mean that that's what real relationships are like.
Yeah. Like, real relationship, you just have to grind away. I don't think so, but I think that so don't seek that out. Don't actively choose that, and don't, like in other areas of life, find something that's like as hard as possible. But know that there's also going to need to be effort in the things that do matter.
Boom. All these mic drops. McKernan's supercharged you.
We have, the end is another Easter egg from Epicurus.
As always.
As always. The knowledge of sin is the beginning of salvation. And
interesting. I'm going to translate from the Italian version.
Okay.
So like, say that one again.
The knowledge of sin is the beginning of salvation.
Okay. To have understanding / conscientiousness of your own faults is the first step towards salvation.
Well, that's much better, isn't it?
It's different, qualitatively, a little bit.
I think that what follows in the English version does make clear that that's what it's about, that you need to recognize there's something wrong in your behavior or in yourself if you're going to fix it. No one tries to fix themselves if they think they're absolutely fine. And so the first step, I mean, it's like, well, the 12 steps, isn't it? Admit you have a problem and then join a cult.
And then don't go on to the second step, because the second step is to say that you're powerless to stop it. Only God can help you. First step's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just do
Skip the others.
one of the 12 steps. Well, I think that's true, so assess, think. If you're traveling the world endlessly or jumping from place to place, maybe you need to pause and ask the question, are you running away or are you trying to actually develop yourself? Are you fleeing or are you on walkabout? I wouldn't want to put a clear time limit on it, but it's probably best to check in if it's going on for years.
Unless you are the errant nomad and that's your role, I guess.
Yeah, well, if that's what you are, and then you found it. You found it in yourself. Yeah. Like, you're not searching for yourself. You're now just expressing yourself and discovering other experiences along the way. Boom, boom, boom. And there's another line which mixed feelings about. At times, be harsh with yourself. Personally, I don't think I need to hear that as encouragement.
No, you got that covered.
Yeah, I think there's harsh in a measured way that can work, which is to be honest. And, still sometimes the harshness that I might apply to myself isn't that kind. It can be like the better kind that sees through, is like, wait a minute, this isn't working. This habit that you're doing, this is not serving you.
I'm just going to, once again,
give me the Italian.
Transliterate. I'm just curious. It says, the last sentence is, so when you can, accuse yourself, have a exam of conscience, mm-hmm. Assume first the role of accuser, then of judge, and then finally of the person sort of
defendant,
defender, I guess, the lawyer that defends you.
Okay.
So first blame yourself and then kind of give yourself judgment, but then someone else goes, no, hold on. But it ends with, and sometimes punish yourself.
Ooh. So you give yourself due process.
I guess so. That's what the Italian version is saying.
Well, it followed, there was that bit after in the English as well. Okay. Like, it didn't just omit it. I just took that little...
okay. Now I was just curious if it felt the same from what you were reading.
I think so, though. I didn't necessarily follow it only came to me now. It's like, give yourself due process.
Maybe they should have translated it like that.
Maybe we need to retranslate Seneca.
I've noticed that he ends all the letters with keep well. Does that come across in the English ones?
It's with farewell.
Okay. Sort of. Not
or
quite.
I think I've also heard it as take care. But it can have different resonances in English. Like farewell is more like goodbye, although if you break it down, it's like, I hope that you fares and you do well.
Yeah, which is more what the Italian one
but
is
then
saying.
Take care, I think in some cultures or English-speaking ones can be just a normal like, yeah, see you later, but could also be look after yourself. But it could also have a kind of resonance of like, I think you need to look after yourself. The difficulties of language.
I enjoyed this one.
I did too. And my last thought was like related to that harshness or otherwise, that for some people, including myself, the truth that you maybe don't want to acknowledge could be that you're a nicer, kinder person than you ever give yourself credit for. And the negative thing that you need to correct is to correct beating yourself up all the time about nothing.
Which you can do on holiday as well as at home.
Yes. So let's go on holiday. Voices in the Dark outing.
I think so. On tour. It's got to be on tour.
Lads on tour. I hope that's not too exclusive to our non-lad listeners. And that could be people of any sex or gender, because just because you're a guy doesn't mean you're a lad.
Okay. All right.
And there's a lot of women I know who are definite lads.
Yeah? Yeah, I guess.
Some of them in this house.
Yes.
So that was that one. I think it was kind of nice. Like, gave me some good points for reflection. I'm glad it's fun to disagree with him.
Hmm.
But in the end, like you thought you were all in on this, but it sounded like you also saw the points that I had.
Yeah, you
that-
brought me around on some of those. Like, as with everything, there's got to be a balance.
It's got to be a balance. Just walking the line between chaos and order.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to stop making in jokes to each other. Okay, everybody, if you enjoy the show, please pass it on to a friend or hit us up on the socials at V in the D or at V in the D Pod on Instagram. And until we speak to you next time,
Please be silly, be kind, and be weird.